The Porsche Cayenne Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe, deep breath, is a bit of a contradiction. On one hand, it's a Turbo S, which makes it the highest performing member of the third generation Cayenne family. On the other, it's an E-Hybrid, which also means it's one of the most fuel efficient versions of Porsche's original SUV. And it's also a coupe, but you and I both know these days coupe is more of a marketing term for more stylish and less practical SUVs. So, is the Cayenne Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe having a bit of an identity crisis? But before I answer that question, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and tap the bell icon to make sure you receive a notification when we upload a new video. Now, let's take a look at Porsche's flagship SUV. Firstly, the Coupe has a more steeply raked windscreen, and of course, a sloping roofline, redesigned rear doors, and fatter rear haunches. In fact, the only body panels that the coupe and wagon share are the front doors, the front fenders, and the bonnet. And it would be remiss of us not to point out with the E-Hybrid, the acid green highlights on the badging and massive front brake calipers. And if you ask me, the rear is the coupe's best angle, partly thanks to its wider track and adaptive boot spoiler that extends up to 135mm when driving faster than 90 kilometers an hour. By subscribing to the coupe craze, the Cayenne has sacrificed 145 litres of boot space, but the 500 litres of cargo capacity that's left over is still family friendly. You don't get a spare wheel though, with only tyre sealant and electric air pump included. Now, by being a coupe, you would assume that the Cayenne has sacrificed some practicality in the second row. But Porsche claims by lowering the rear bench by 30mm, it has the same amount of headroom as the Cayenne wagon. But as I sit here right now, it is still a little bit tighter. Legroom though, behind my driving position, is quite generous. As you can see here, 2 bucket seats are standard in the second row, but Porsche offers a 3-seat bench as a no-cost option. And looking at the way it's designed with this storage space here, it's probably better to go for the 3-seat setup and have more people enjoying the performance of the car. The Cayenne Coupe comes standard with a fixed panoramic glass roof, although you may notice this particular test car doesn't actually have it. That's because it's fitted with the optional lightweight package that instead has a carbon fibre roof for reduced weight. In terms of practicality, you have a couple of cup holders in the fold-down armrest, 2 USB-C ports to make sure devices are charged in the second row, 4-zone climate control, a 12-volt power outlet, and decently sized door pockets. Here in the front row, it's a technological tour de force with a massive 12.3-inch touchscreen sitting right in the middle, powered by Porsche's latest infotainment system. Got a series of shortcut buttons down here on the driver's side, which makes accessing different menus much easier, but it requires a few too many clicks to get to certain functions sometimes. Here in front of the driver, we have 2 multi-function displays, flanking a traditional speedometer, as is the Porsche way. You get a good view of the displays through the steering wheel, and it displays lots of information that's very handy while you're driving. The Cayenne Coupe comes with a set of front seats that are absolutely awesome. 18-way adjustable, super supportive, very nice on a long journey, and also through the twisty stuff. Now, before we look at how the Cayenne Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe drives, let's take a look at its pricing and features. There are 3 other members of the Cayenne Coupe range, which kicks off from $128,000 plus on-road costs. The Turbo S E-Hybrid flagship we're reviewing here costs just over $290,000, or about $5,000 more than its wagon counterpart. It features massive 22-inch alloy wheels, LED headlights and taillights, a 14-speaker Bose sound system, heated seats, 4-zone climate control, and full leather upholstery as standard, plus more. While active safety features include blind spot monitoring and surround view cameras, lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control are bizarrely extra cost options, and expensive ones at that. In fact, despite costing more than $300,000 to get on the road, the Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe has a long list of desirable but expensive options, such as a head-up display, as is the Porsche way. As mentioned, you can find a full breakdown of the Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe's standard and optional equipment at the CarsGuide website. Now, let's see how it drives. The Cayenne Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe pairs its turbo counterpart's 4-litre twin-turbo V8 with an electric motor for a staggering 500 kilowatts of power and 900 newton meters of torque. The Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe sprints from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.8 seconds, which is only a tenth of a second quicker than its turbo counterpart manages. So you're not getting a huge step up in performance for the extra cost you pay. Now there's no doubting that the Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe's acceleration is nothing short of brutal. You get a massive shove of torque off the line, and every time you put the foot down flat to the floor. So you'd be hoping that the brakes are good enough to pull you up, and they sure are. We're dealing with a set of carbon ceramic discs here, and they're clamped by 10 piston calipers at the front and 4 piston calipers at the rear. So there's no shortage of stopping power. Now, Porsche are usually the masters of brake pedal feel. Being a plug-in hybrid, things are a little bit different. So plug-in hybrids often have a bit of inconsistent brake feel when you're going between petrol and electric power. And it's no different here. When on electric power only, brake pedal feel is a bit numb, a bit wooden. But when you use petrol and electric power together, you get more of that brake pedal feel that you've come to expect. So with this powertrain, what you have is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, of course, we have seen this powertrain in the Panamera before, but this one's a little bit different. In this case, the transmission is actually a torque converter unit and not a dual clutch. What this means is around town in particular, gear shifts are really smooth. So smooth, in fact, you don't really notice the transmission doing its thing while you're driving the Cayenne Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe. And as a little bonus as well, the torque converter unit is able to handle more torque, as its name suggests. So the Cayenne actually makes 900 Newton meters of torque, whereas the Panamera only makes 850. Granted, still a lot of torque. Now you're probably thinking, what makes this a plug-in hybrid? Well, we have a 14.1 kilowatt hour battery that provides 40 kilometers of electric driving range. That battery can be charged using a domestic household socket in about 6 hours. So for most people, that'll be overnight. Now, obviously an advantage of being a plug-in hybrid is fuel efficiency. And the Cayenne Turbo S E-Hybrid claims 4.4 litres per 100 kilometres on the combined cycle test, which is nothing short of phenomenal for a high-performance car. But that is on paper. Right now, as we speak, we're averaging 12.2 litres per 100 kilometres, which is actually almost bang on the claim of its turbo counterpart. Granted, yes, you will have better fuel efficiency than the turbo, but in the real world, you probably can't expect 4.4 litres per 100 kilometres. Being a sports car of sorts means the Cayenne has several different driving modes. Given this is the Turbo S E-Hybrid, it actually gets a few more. What I'm talking about is the hybrid drive modes in particular. Now, Porsche seems to do plug-in hybrids really, really well, and these modes are the key to its success. So, if you go through the infotainment system, you'll notice that there's a hybrid tab. If you tap on that, it'll give you 3 different options for the hybrid drive mode that can be accessed by this little switch on the steering wheel. There are 3 versions of the hybrid drive modes: Hybrid Auto, which gives you the best of both worlds, E-Hold, which, as its name suggests, holds the level of charge for the battery, and E-Charge, which tops up the battery while on the move. It does such a good job of that in some cases, some people might never plug in their car at home. The Turbo S E-Hybrid rides on a 3-chamber air suspension, which means you can vary the height to 3 different heights, and it also rides really, really well. But the Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe does roll on 22-inch wheels with low-profile tyres as standard, so you do feel some of the sharper bumps as you come across them. As you play with the different modes for the adaptive dampers, it progressively gets firmer and firmer, but obviously at the trade-off of better handling. Speaking of handling, the Turbo S E-Hybrid has a trick all-wheel drive system with torque vectoring that is nothing short of incredible. When you're really pushing it around corners, there is no shortage of grip at any point in time. It just grips and goes, grips and goes, grips and goes. That said, dynamics are hurt by the weight penalty that the Turbo S E-Hybrid carries, being 335 kilos. But to make up for this, it is fitted with active anti-roll bars as standard, which help to cancel out some of that body roll you'd expect through the corners. It's quite staggering, the result actually, but at the same time, it just isn't quite as good as the turbo around corners. Now, the Turbo S E-Hybrid Coupe has speed-sensitive steering. What that means is, at low speed, it's nice and light, making it highly maneuverable. However, when you get up to speed, it weights up and becomes quite stable. And anyway, we all know that Porsche are the masters of steering, even in the electric world. And the Cayenne is no different here. It's got tremendous steering, very darty, lots of feel. They've done a fantastic job yet again. Straight line performance gains are nice, and so is the option to go electric. But at the end of the day, the Turbo S E-Hybrid isn't worth the $40,000 premium over its turbo counterpart, which just so happens to be the better drive anyway. That said, it will well and truly rival and in many ways exceed the Mercedes-AMG GLE 63S Coupe, BMW X6M Competition and Audi RS Q8 when they arrive later this year. Despite being a contradiction though, the Turbo S E-Hybrid proves you can have your cake and eat it too.